Welcome back to Entrepreneur Brief, unlocking wisdom, one summary at a time. From timeless classics to fresh insights, this is our third episode.
Third one already.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun, right? Anyway, today we're diving into some serious wisdom. We've got an interview with the one and only Charlie Munger.
The legend himself.
Exactly. Even though this interview was done shortly before he passed, his insights are, they're timeless. They're especially relevant for entrepreneurs.
Oh, absolutely. We're not just talking about making a quick buck. This is about building businesses that last, building them the right way.
Exactly. And one thing that really jumped out at me was his focus on uncommon sense and avoiding what he calls asininities.
Asininities. Gotta love that word.
Right. He sees all these, brilliant people in finance making these really basic errors.
It's true. Then he tells that story about Harvard Business School, needing to teach basic probability to their grad students. Decision tree theory. Like, come on, guys.
That's not exactly advanced stuff.
Right. It's something you should have nailed down way before grad school. Shows how even the quote-unquote best and brightest can miss the practical stuff.
So how do we, as entrepreneurs, how do we make sure we're not falling into those same traps? Those common sense traps. How do we cultivate that uncommon sense?
Well, Munger doesn't give us a step-by-step guide, but he gives us clues. It's not about, rejecting everything you learned in business school.
Right.
It's more about filtering it.
Okay.
It's about taking those core principles, the probability, the decision trees, and applying them rigorously to your situation.
It's not just blindly following the herd.
Exactly. He even says, and I love this quote, he says, somebody says that old Joe has common sense. They don't mean that. They mean he's got uncommon sense.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Common sense is so rare, it's become uncommon.
Right. It's not just knowing the facts, it's seeing what others miss. Challenging assumptions. Like he said about all these wealth advisors, so many high IQ people are doing so many dumb things. Intelligence alone isn't enough. You need that clear, independent thinking.
It sounds like it's about combining that knowledge with the guts to actually challenge the status quo.
Exactly. Even when everyone else is doing things a certain way.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into another point that he makes, choosing the right people.
Oh, hugely important.
Right. Not just as partners, but clients too.
He's a big believer in surrounding yourself with trustworthy people. It's not just about skills, it's character.
Yeah, because your team, your suppliers, your customers, they all contribute to the culture of your business.
100%. And Munger, he's really clear about building a business on solid ethics. He cautions against industries that exploit others for profit.
He specifically calls out things like
gambling, drugs,
yeah,
and those shady financial practices. Those might make money in the short term, but they don't build sustainable businesses.
So focus on those products and services that are actually good for people.
Exactly. Build a company you can be proud of.
Right. It's not just about the bottom line.
It's about your reputation, attracting the right people, creating something that has a positive impact.
It's interesting because a lot of entrepreneurs, they get so caught up in the numbers, in the financials,
Oh, yeah.
that they forget about these fundamental principles.
And that's what Munger warns against. He says relying only on financial statements, it can be so misleading. He uses this great analogy. The map is not the territory.
What does he mean by that?
He's saying, numbers are important, but they don't tell the whole story. You can get fixated on your margins or your profits and miss the big picture.
Like what? Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine you're just focused on website traffic, but not on your conversion rates. The traffic might look impressive, but are those visitors becoming paying customers?
That's a great example.
Right.
So it's about understanding the underlying mechanics of the business, the real drivers of value.
Exactly. Not just the numbers on a spreadsheet. And speaking of value, Munger loves businesses that can generate high returns with minimal capital investment.
Like Costco.
Costco, perfect example. Think about it. Their membership model, it keeps shrinkage low. They have high inventory turnover. All of that means less capital tied up.
And that ties right back into his idea of win-win transactions.
It does. Costco wins by having loyal customers and efficient operations. The customers win by getting great products at great prices.
It's like both sides benefit.
Exactly. But he also stresses that this philosophy should extend beyond just your customer relationships, your suppliers too.
He doesn't like the idea of squeezing suppliers for short-term gains.
No. Like what TransDigm does, hates it. It's about building those sustainable, mutually beneficial relationships across your whole supply chain.
Don't burn bridges, build bridges.
Precisely. And this long-term perspective, it's so crucial, especially now. We're living in a time of rapid technological change. Munger knows this can make or break businesses fast. He uses newspapers getting disrupted by the internet as a prime example.
You mentioned Munger being skeptical of tech, but I know Berkshire Hathaway owns a ton of Apple stock.
Right. That's where knowing your circle of competence comes in. That's another one of Munger's big ideas. He's not against tech, but he knows he's not an expert in picking tech winners.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to pick individual companies, he focuses on how tech impacts the businesses he does understand.
So he's thinking, how is e-commerce going to affect the brands I invest in?
Exactly. How will it change retail and distribution?
Yeah.
It's about seeing those bigger trends, not just the individual companies.
Okay, that makes sense. So this applies to entrepreneurs, even if they are in tech.
Oh, absolutely. You have to know your strengths and where to get help when you're, out of your depth.
So how do we figure out our circle of competence? How do we know where our expertise lies?
It's a process of honest self-assessment. What are you truly passionate about? Where do you have a track record of success? What comes naturally to you? And just as importantly, what are you not good at? Where do you need to bring in those experts or partners?
That makes sense. Don't be afraid to admit what you don't know.
Right. Focus on what you do well.
And that leads us to another important aspect of his philosophy, investment discipline.
Oh, he's really concerned about the current investment landscape, especially for people seeking those big, fast returns.
He thinks a lot of wealth managers are doomed to underperform.
Because of high fees, competition, and just following the crowd.
It's like a critique of that short-term thinking, that self-serving mindset that's so prevalent.
It is. He's calling on investors to think for themselves and avoid getting sucked into those speculative bubbles or hype-driven markets.
Which brings us to his stance on cryptocurrency. Pretty harsh stance.
Yeah, he calls it scumball activity and a store of delusion.
Wow.
He sees it as the opposite of his value-based investing approach. He contrasts it with gold, which, while also kind of an investment in nothing, has at least a long history and some practical uses. Crypto to him is just a dangerous game that benefits very few.
Interesting how he connects that back to his overall philosophy of seeking genuine value and avoiding speculation. He sees crypto as a distraction from building real businesses.
Absolutely. Businesses that actually contribute something to society.
And his comments might sound extreme, but they're a good reminder for entrepreneurs to be wary of chasing the next big thing.
Especially if it feels too good to be true.
Focus on building something sustainable, something with real value.
Exactly. It's interesting because Munger doesn't just talk about business. He talks about these big societal trends, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's concerned about declining birth rates,
Oh, yeah.
political polarization, institutions becoming less effective.
He does have that suck it in and cope advice.
He does.
Which sounds kind of harsh, right?
Yeah, it does on the surface. But I think if you dig a little deeper, what he's really saying is focus on what you can control. Yeah. You can't single-handedly fix all these massive societal issues.
Right.
But you can adapt.
Okay.
You can be resourceful.
Right.
And you can find those opportunities where everyone benefits.
He's still optimistic about win-win systems.
He is. He gives these really interesting examples like Dairy Queen's franchise model, right? Where both the company and the franchisees win.
Oh, yeah.
Or capitalism as a whole, which, despite its flaws, has created a lot of prosperity.
It's about focusing on the solutions, not just complaining.
Exactly. Now, this might seem like a total shift, but Munger also talks about his passion for architecture.
Oh, yeah. What?
Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear that.
He actually designed his own house and has been involved in a few architectural projects.
Okay, how does that connect to entrepreneurship?
Well, he's super critical of architects who prioritize artistic expression over the practical needs of the client.
He thinks they're too obsessed with being unique.
Yes, even if it makes the building less functional.
He told that story about the MIT dorm.
Oh, yeah.
With those slanted walls.
With the slanted walls made students seasick.
Right.
It's hilarious, but it makes his point.
So form over function can lead to some disastrous results.
Totally. But how does this relate to entrepreneurs, right? We're not designing buildings. It's exactly. It's about that data-driven, evidence-based approach he uses. Like, when designing graduate housing at University of Michigan, he challenged this assumption that every bedroom had to have a window.
Oh, because he did the research.
He did the research and found that apartments without windows actually rented for slightly less in Ann Arbor.
Interesting.
So he ditched that requirement, created a more efficient, cost-effective design. It's about challenging those assumptions and finding solutions that really work, not just going with the flow.
Okay, that's starting to click for me.
Good.
It's like, don't just follow those industry best practices blindly.
Exactly.
Do your research, test your assumptions, find what works for your business.
Exactly. And this leads to another fascinating anecdote, his strong belief in single rooms for student housing.
Because he thinks forcing students to share rooms is insane.
He does. None of his own kids enjoyed sharing a room with a stranger. He even points out the absurdity of old fire codes that mandated windows in every sleeping space, even if it made for worse living situations overall.
So it's about questioning those deeply ingrained norms.
Right.
Even if something has always been done a certain way.
And it doesn't mean it's the best way.
Right. Entrepreneurs need to be willing to challenge those norms.
Yeah, and find better solutions.
Find better solutions.
And that's a great segue into the story of how Poor Charlie's Almanac came to be.
Because the book itself is great, but the story behind it is almost as interesting.
Right. Munger never set out to write a book. He gave a few talks.
Right.
You know, he was inspired by Ben Graham, who was big on education.
Right.
But it was Peter Kaufman who compiled and edited all those talks into Poor Charlie's Almanac.
Wow. So it's Kaufman who's responsible for the book existing.
Really? Yeah.
That's incredible. And it became this global phenomenon.
It did.
Munger even said he's more popular in China and India than in the U.S.
He is, which is fascinating, right? It shows how his ideas resonate across cultures.
I love how he jokes about it, too. Like, he jokes that it's because he's an elderly male of wealth.
He does.
Lots of experience sharing.
Right, which he compares to Confucius.
It's true, right. Like, his emphasis on hard work, on discipline, on ethics.
Yeah.
Those resonate in cultures that really value those things.
Absolutely. But I think it's more than that. It's his clarity, his avoidance of jargon, his focus on actionable advice based on real-world experience that speaks to everyone, regardless of background.
Okay, so now speaking of partnerships, let's talk about Munger and Buffett.
Oh, the dynamic duo.
Right. Decades-long collaboration.
What's amazing is how their personalities, they're different, but they complement each other so well.
Buffett has that folksy charm, right?
He does.
And Munger brings that sharper edge.
Right, but they both love learning.
Yeah.
And they believe in using their success to benefit others.
That shared sense of purpose.
It's a core element of their partnership.
I love how Munger describes their relationship as mostly enjoyable.
He does. He does.
Even in this, this high-stakes world of investing, they make it fun.
It's a good reminder that even in challenging work, finding that joy is so crucial.
And the way they structured their partnership, giving each other space, autonomy.
So important.
That's a great lesson for any entrepreneur who's thinking about collaborating.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between working together and letting each person shine.
Their decision to merge everything into Berkshire Hathaway also highlights something really important.
What's that?
Transparency.
Huge.
Right. They avoid even the appearance of doing anything shady.
Yeah, their reputation for ethical behavior, it's a huge part of their success. It all comes back to trust.
Speaking of trust, Munger has some strong opinions about the SEC.
He does.
He thinks they should be even tougher.
Especially on curbing what he calls financial chicanery and wealth management.
He even suggested that investment pros should report returns per dollar invested over time.
Yeah.
Instead of just showcasing flashy historical performance.
Right, which is kind of radical, but it gets at this core belief he has in transparency and genuine value creation, not just spinning a good story.
It's about building a system that rewards real merit.
Yes.
And discourages manipulation.
Absolutely.
Which is a perfect segue into his critique of Jack Welch.
Oh, the former GE CEO.
Do you remember how Welch was lauded for his super aggressive style?
Munger argues that while it might have looked good on the surface, it actually hurt GE in the long run.
Yeah.
He calls Welch's system me-win, focused on personal gain even at the expense of others.
It's the opposite of that win-win philosophy.
Exactly, where everyone benefits. It's about building those lasting relationships, not just squeezing every last drop of profit out of every deal.
It's about a more holistic approach.
Thinking
about all stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Not just the bottom line.
And this is becoming even more relevant now with all the scrutiny businesses are facing.
About their social impact.
Social impact, environmental impact. It's not just about profit anymore.
Right, right. Which leads us to Munger's thoughts on companies like Stripe. They're disrupting traditional financial models.
It is interesting to hear his take on Stripe, given Berkshire's success with companies like American Express.
He sees the value that Stripe brings, right?
Oh, absolutely, to online commerce.
Right.
But he raises this critical question, can it last? He reminds us that even companies that dominate their industries can get disrupted.
He uses the Kodak example.
Kodak, perfect example. Digital photography wiped them out.
So entrepreneurs need to be constantly adapting.
Constantly adapting and anticipating those future trends.
Right. No matter how successful you are, you can't just sit back and relax.
Exactly. And this goes back to knowing your circle of competence. He and Buffett, they mostly avoided direct investments in high tech because they didn't feel equipped to judge those businesses.
Okay, so it's about staying humble, knowing your limits, and focusing on areas where you have a real advantage.
Precisely. Which brings us to his early investment in NetJets.
Oh, yeah. The company that pioneered fractional aircraft ownership.
Right.
This is a great example of how they think long-term, right?
It is.
The initial returns were slow. But they saw the potential.
They saw the potential, and they were patient.
And they were right.
They were. NetJets is a massive success now.
So they were able to spot this business with strong fundamentals.
Strong fundamentals, even in an unconventional market.
Munger specifically highlighted their culture.
Yes, their commitment to safety and customer service above all else.
Above all else.
It's a powerful example of how culture creates a competitive advantage.
Builds long-term value.
Exactly. Entrepreneurs need to be intentional about cultivating the right culture in their organizations.
It's not just about having the great product or service.
It's about the environment, right?
Yeah.
Where people are motivated, engaged, aligned with the mission.
Speaking of long-term thinking, Munger's been bullish on China for a long time.
He has. He cites their rapid growth, the opportunity to invest in good companies at good prices, and their potential to become a global economic powerhouse.
He does acknowledge the political risks, right?
He does.
But he believes the rewards outweigh them.
He does. And he also stresses the importance of strong economic ties between the U.S. and China.
He thinks it benefits everyone.
He does. It all comes back to that win-win philosophy.
Right, those mutually beneficial trade relationships.
Exactly. It's about thinking globally.
Seeing how your business can contribute to a more interconnected world.
Precisely.
I love the story about how he met Li Lu, the manager of that China-focused fund that Berkshire invested in.
Oh, tell me about it.
He met him through a friend's wife.
I know.
Who was impressed by Li Lu's role in the Tiananmen Square protests.
Yeah, it's amazing how personal connections and intuition can lead to such incredible opportunities.
Right.
It shows Munger's ability to cut through the noise and spot talent.
Even if it comes from an unconventional background.
Exactly. That's a great lesson for entrepreneurs. Don't just look at resumes.
Look for that spark.
Look for the spark, the drive, the integrity.
Now, talking about talent, Munger also shared his thoughts on Sequoia Capital, one of the top venture capital firms.
One of the best.
He attributes their success to a few things. Their super competitive, merit-based culture, being early to the VC game, and their knack for spotting promising startups.
But he also brings up their investment in Robinhood.
Oh, yeah, which has been criticized.
For encouraging risky trading behavior.
He sees that as a misstep, both ethically and financially.
He does. It's a reminder that even the best investors make mistakes. What matters is learning from them.
And constantly refining your approach.
Right. And it highlights Munger's commitment to ethical conduct. To him, success achieved through questionable means is meaningless.
It all connects back to that win-win philosophy, right?
It does.
Building a better world.
Which leads us to his thoughts on Lee Kuan Yew, the founder of modern Singapore. Munger really admires his approach. Figure out what works and then do it. Figure out what doesn't work and avoid it.
Super practical.
It's about making those data-driven decisions, focusing on tangible results. Look at what Lee Kuan Yew did. He transformed Singapore from this tiny, poor nation to a global economic powerhouse.
It is incredibly inspiring. It shows you don't have to be a genius to achieve great things.
Right.
It's about having the discipline to think clearly, learn from those mistakes, and consistently make those smart choices.
And having the guts to challenge conventional wisdom, to go against the grain when you need to.
Forge your own path.
Exactly. Munger's life embodies that. He didn't follow a traditional path. From lawyer to investor, he wasn't afraid to dive into new areas.
So he's a testament to the power of continuous learning and adaptation.
He is. It's encouraging for entrepreneurs who might feel pressured to conform. It's those who dare to be different who often achieve the most. Speaking of which, what about the culture at Berkshire Hathaway that's made them so successful?
Well, Munger emphasizes their dislike for bureaucracy.
They really do.
Right. They've somehow avoided those layers of management, that slow decision-making,
Right.
that bog down so many large companies.
It's incredible they've kept things so simple. Lean headquarters, decentralized management.
It's all about trusting those subsidiary managers.
Trusting them to make good decisions.
And that trust isn't just internal, it's external, too,
It's their partners.
with their partners.
Mm.
Munger would rather have, like, a quick phone call with someone he trusts
Then a 40-page contract.
than a 40-page contract with someone he doesn't trust.
Exactly. It speaks volumes about the importance of strong relationships built on integrity.
And respect.
Yeah. That culture of trust and decentralized decision-making has fueled Berkshire's success.
It's allowed them to be agile,
Right.
seize those opportunities, avoid that bureaucratic quicksand.
Absolutely.
All entrepreneurs can learn from this.
Even if we're not running empires like Berkshire Hathaway,
Exactly.
empower your team, keep those communication lines open, and create an environment where people feel valued and trusted.
That same trust is reflected in how they handle capital allocation. They prefer to have that excess cash sent back to headquarters,
Right.
but they're not tyrants about it.
They trust their managers.
They trust their managers to know how to allocate that capital.
And it's worked. They've generated outstanding returns without being super aggressive in squeezing their subsidiaries.
It's about trusting your team, right?
Yeah,
Giving them the resources and letting them do their thing.
absolutely. And that trust, it's a two-way street. Munger and Buffett have earned that trust.
By consistently demonstrating their commitment.
Their commitment to the long-term success of their companies.
They're not playing those short-term games,
No.
not manipulating earnings.
They're building companies for the long haul.
Exactly. Companies designed to create value for decades.
That long-term perspective is probably the most defining characteristic of their approach.
They're willing to hold on to those investments
For years.
for years, decades even,
Patiently waiting.
for that value to compound and grow.
It's been key to their success. They haven't gotten swept up in the hype and the bubbles.
But they haven't been immune to mistakes, have they?
No, they haven't. Munger openly talks about their acquisition of Dexter Shoe Company.
Oh, which got wiped out by Chinese competition.
It's a good reminder that even the smartest investors can make bad calls.
What matters is learning from those mistakes
Right. It does. Learning from the mistakes and constantly improving.
and having the humility to know you don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Munger and Buffett have never pretended to be infallible,
They're very open about their mistakes
and they use those experiences,
to refine their decision-making
which is a valuable lesson for entrepreneurs who are afraid to take risks.
or admit they messed up.
Embrace that mindset of constant learning and improvement.
And having the resilience to bounce back from those setbacks.
Use those experiences to fuel future success.
Munger's whole interview is packed with wisdom and insights.
It really is.
And it's clear his experiences, both the good and the bad, have shaped his thinking. But what struck me most is his commitment to ethical conduct.
He believes that true success is built on integrity.
Integrity, fairness, and a genuine desire to create value for everyone involved.
And that really resonates, especially today,
Especially today.
where businesses are facing this pressure to operate sustainably and ethically.
Absolutely. It's not just about making a profit anymore.
It's about making a positive impact,
And Munger and Buffett, they've been incredibly generous with their wealth
donating billions.
to various causes.
It aligns perfectly with their investment philosophy, right?
It does. They're looking for those high-impact opportunities.
Where their contributions can make a difference.
Exactly. They're not just writing checks.
They're actively involved.
In supporting organizations tackling some of the world's biggest challenges.
It's a great example for entrepreneurs who want to have that impact beyond just their business.
It is. It's a reminder that success isn't just about accumulating wealth
It's about using it.
to make the world a better place. And Munger's life embodies that.
It does. He's not only achieved incredible success in business,
But he's used his resources and influence to make a real difference.
in people's lives.
A true role model for those who aspire to build both successful businesses and meaningful lives.
And speaking of meaningful lives, Munger emphasizes the importance of finding joy in the work itself.
He and Buffett genuinely enjoyed building Berkshire Hathaway
Overcoming those challenges.
and building those relationships along the way.
It shows how crucial passion and purpose are for long-term success.
It's not just about the money.
It's about finding that work that excites you
That challenges you, that lets you contribute something.
and surrounding yourself with people who share your values.
Absolutely. People who inspire you and make the journey enjoyable.
Munger's interview is a testament to the power of that approach,
It is.
and his enthusiasm is infectious,
It's a reminder that entrepreneurship can be incredibly rewarding.
both personally and professionally.
It's about creating value, making a difference, and having fun along the way.
Munger also emphasizes the importance of the people you surround yourself with,
Your network.
your network.
He believes they have a massive impact on your life and your success.
Oh, absolutely. He's always surrounded himself with intelligent,
Ethical people.
ethical people who share his values,
And he doesn't hesitate to cut ties with those who don't.
even if it means missing out on potential profits.
It's a reminder that you are who you surround yourself with.
Find people who inspire you
Challenge you, support you,
and build relationships based on trust.
respect, and mutual benefit.
Munger has this amazing network of friends,
Or colleagues who've contributed to his success.
enrich his life,
And he's always willing to give back.
share his knowledge.
Help those coming up behind him.
It's a great example of how entrepreneurship can be a force for good.
Not just creating economic value, but building those strong communities and fostering collaboration.
Speaking of communities, Munger also believes in being a responsible citizen.
Contributing to society's well-being
He thinks we all have a role to play.
in making the world a better place.
He encourages entrepreneurs to use their skills and their resources,
To tackle those social issues.
help those in need.
He's a big supporter of education,
Healthcare.
environmental sustainability.
It's a reminder that entrepreneurship isn't just about building businesses.
It's about making a positive impact.
Munger's life really demonstrates this.
It does.
He's not only achieved incredible business success,
But he's used his resources to make a difference in countless lives.
he's a true role model, right?
Absolutely.
For building both a successful business and a meaningful life.
And speaking of meaning, Munger also talks about finding your purpose.
Pursuing your passions,
He's clearly passionate about learning
about understanding how the world works.
and sharing that knowledge
It's been a key driver of his success.
and personal satisfaction.
It's a reminder that entrepreneurship isn't just about chasing money,
It's about finding something you care about,
something that gives you a sense of purpose.
a fulfillment, and using your skills and talents to make that impact.
Munger's interview really reinforces these timeless principles.
It does.
It's a call to action, to embrace your passions.
Chase your dreams and build businesses that make a difference.
And speaking of dreams, Munger stresses the importance of setting ambitious goals.
And having the drive to reach them.
He thinks we're all capable of more than we realize.
He does.
So don't be afraid to dream big
He's a huge believer in hard work.
and perseverance,
He sees success as a blend of talent,
effort, and a little bit of luck.
but he emphasizes the importance of having the right mindset,
It's about embracing those challenges,
welcoming feedback,
always striving to learn and grow.
be resilient, bounce back from those setbacks, stay humble, never stop pushing forward.
Munger's own career is a testament to this, right?
It is,
He faced challenges,
but he never gave up.
and he achieved extraordinary success.
It's a powerful message for entrepreneurs facing those doubts and challenges.
Shows that anything is possible.
With the right mindset and determination.
And speaking of which, Munger highlights the importance of focusing on what matters.
Avoiding those distractions.
And we get so lost, right?
Right.
In the day-to-day chaos.
Emails.
The meetings, the obligations.
We lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Munger encourages us to be mindful of our time and energy,
Okay.
prioritize what truly matters, delegate or eliminate everything else.
So it's about saying no
Saying no
to things that don't align with your goals
and values
and creating those systems.
to work smarter, not harder.
Munger is so incredibly focused and efficient.
He is.
Oh.
He's all about cutting through the noise and delegating.
It's a great lesson for entrepreneurs who are feeling overwhelmed.
It is.
Right. It's okay to ask for help.
To delegate and focus on what you're good at.
Speaking of being good at something, Munger emphasizes the importance of developing those skills and expertise.
He believes we can all become experts in our chosen fields.
Invest in your education.
Find mentors.
Constantly strive to improve.
Munger is a lifelong learner.
He's always seeking new knowledge.
It's a reminder that entrepreneurship is a journey.
Of continuous learning.
Continuous learning and growth.
Recognizing that you don't know everything.
Right.
And seeking help when needed.
Munger's success is a testament to that.
Decades of experience.
Observation, relentless study.
A willingness to learn from his mistakes.
It's a powerful message for anyone starting out.
Or wanting to take their business to that next level.
Success isn't instant.
It's the result of years of hard work.
dedication, and continuous improvement.
Speaking of improvement, Munger also highlights seeking feedback.
Embracing it.
We all have those blind spots,
But
right?
find people who will challenge you.
Who will give you that constructive criticism.
Munger is not afraid to ask for feedback.
He's always open to new ideas.
New perspectives.
It's a reminder that entrepreneurship is not a solo sport.
Build those strong relationships.
With people who can help you see things differently.
And identify areas for improvement.
Have the humility to acknowledge that you don't have all the answers.
Be willing to
Munger has surrounded himself with brilliant people.
Throughout his career.
And he's always receptive to their input.
It's a great message for those facing challenges.
Looking to level up.
Ask for help. Find mentors.
Surround yourself with that supportive network.
And speaking of journeys, Munger talks about enjoying the process.
The ups and downs.
The challenges and the victories.
Of building a business.
He's so passionate about his work.
And he finds that fulfillment.
In creating value.
Solving problems.
And making a difference.
Entrepreneurship isn't just about the destination.
It's about the journey.
It's about the people you meet along the way.
The lessons you learn, the experiences you have.
Having the resilience to overcome those challenges.
Gratitude to appreciate the successes.
The wisdom to find joy in those everyday moments.
Munger's interview really exemplifies this.
It does.
His fulfillment is so clear.
His enthusiasm is contagious.
It's a reminder that entrepreneurship can be incredibly rewarding.
Personally and professionally.
It's about creating something of value.
Making a difference.
And having fun along the way.
Speaking of fun, Munger also tells some funny stories.
He does.
Especially about his venture into architecture.
He's got a sharp wit and a great sense of humor.
Right.
Reminds us not to take ourselves too seriously.
Exactly.
It's about finding the joy even when things get tough.
Yeah.
And remembering that life's too short.
To spend on work that doesn't fulfill you.
Munger's interview is a breath of fresh air. It reminds us of these timeless principles.
It does.
It's a call to embrace your passions, find that joy in your work, and build businesses that make a difference.
And speaking of impact, Munger also talks about the principal agent problem.
Which is super relevant, especially since the financial crisis.
It is.
He thinks the wealth management industry is particularly vulnerable.
Because the incentives of the money managers
are often misaligned with the investors' interests.
He criticizes those high fees.
The complex products.
The lack of transparency.
He believes investors need to be more aware of these potential conflicts of interest.
Then it's not just a financial world issue, is it?
No, it's anywhere an agent acts on behalf of a principal.
So entrepreneurs need to be mindful of these conflicts.
Both within their organizations.
And in dealings with their partners.
Exactly.
It's about creating systems that align those incentives.
And ensure that everyone is working towards the same goals.
Fostering a culture of transparency.
Accountability.
Making decisions in everyone's best interest.
Munger's insights on this principal agent problem, they're really relevant today.
Especially now with the scrutiny that businesses are facing.
About their ethical conduct.
And their commitment to their customers.
And their communities.
It's about more than just financial skills, isn't it?
It is. Building a lasting, successful business requires a strong moral compass.
And a commitment to doing what's right.
Munger's career is a great example of this.
Yeah.
He's built this reputation for integrity, for fairness.
For a desire to create value.
For everyone he works with.
It's a legacy that entrepreneurs can aspire to.
It is. A model of success that's both financially rewarding and ethically sound. And it's rooted in understanding human nature.
The motivations and incentives behind our behavior.
Munger is a keen observer of psychology.
He is.
And those insights have informed his approach.
To both investing
and life.
He knows that people are complex.
Driven by both rational and irrational impulses.
And successful businesses acknowledge this.
They design systems that account for it.
So it's about understanding what motivates people, what drives their decisions.
And how to create systems that encourage ethical behavior.
And discourage those who would try to game the system.
Exactly. And that's why he really dislikes things like cryptocurrency and excessive leverage.
He sees them as systems that benefit those who are exploiting others.
Or those engaging in reckless speculation.
True wealth creation should be about building something that benefits everyone.
Not just a select few.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Charlie Munger's wisdom, what are the key takeaways for entrepreneurs? What can we learn from his journey?
Well, I think it starts with cultivating that uncommon sense he talks about. The ability to see through the hype, cut through the noise, make decisions based on evidence and sound judgment.
Building businesses that are ethical.
Absolutely.
But,
Sustainable and create those win-win situations for everyone involved.
knowing your strengths.
Knowing your strengths, being aware of your limitations,
Finding the right partners.
building a team you can trust.
Avoiding those get-rich-quick schemes.
Yeah, those speculative bubbles.
Focusing on creating real, lasting value.
Exactly.
Being a lifelong learner.
Embracing feedback.
Always looking for ways to improve.
And remembering that success isn't just about the money.
It's about living a life of purpose and meaning.
Making a difference in the world.
And enjoying the journey.
Absolutely. Munger's interview is a powerful reminder of these timeless principles.
I think so too.
We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights to apply to your own entrepreneurial journey.
As Munger would say, figure out what works and then do it. Figure out what doesn't work and avoid it. Until next time, keep diving deep.